энергии взрыва.
Ой, давай. Так, уже подтвердили?
Не подтвердили, авария там произошла у них. Это диспетчер Припяти сказала.
Пожарная охрана.
Алло, Иванков?
Да.
Значит, вы выезжаете в Припять? Алло?
Да, я слышу.
На атомную станцию выезжайте. Там 3-4 блок горит крыша.
Пожарная охрана.
Алло, Полесская?
Да.
Вы, значит, выезжаете на атомную станцию, там горит крыша 3-4 блока.
Hello and welcome back. We're going to take a look at something a bit different this time. Around 10 years ago I visited the Chernobyl nuclear plant and the abandoned city of Pripyat in northern Ukraine. I know it's not a traditional holiday destination or anything like that, but it's a place I'd always wanted to visit. I think by the time I went I'd pretty much seen every documentary available on YouTube describing the incident, what led up to it and the disaster and fallout afterwards. But it was the abandoned town of Pripyat that really interested me. The town itself has mostly been abandoned since the morning of April 26, 1986, with the explosion of reactor number 4, with what is still ranked as the worst nuclear incident in human history, with the explosion of reactor number 4. It's truly a unique place, and if you ever want to feel like you're the only man on Earth, it's definitely the place to go. Being part of the former Soviet Union, the whole town is littered with Soviet murals. There's still hundreds of books and even photographs lying around, so you get a really good idea of what things were like at the time. But this is primarily a games channel, so we're going to have a quick look at one of the new games that has been released. We're going to have a look at a game called Chernobylite, and they've actually managed to rebuild a large part of the town. They've done this by using 3D cameras to scan rooms to get the most accurate portrayal possible. So we're going to have a quick look at some of my old pictures and my old videos and see how they did. Our first location is the basketball court. This is part of Pripyat's Azure swimming pool complex. Now obviously not every location is going to be modelled, but I've just been blown away by the level of detail in some of these places. Likely their photographic 3D scans were probably taken 10 years or so after I made my visit, but look at the detail of the plaster above the door frame here. It exactly matches the picture I've taken. Next we move on to the famous Azure swimming pool itself. This building actually remained in use for several years after the disaster. The cleanup crew called the Liquidators made use of this, and it was always kept clean. It's one of the cleanest places in Pripyat, at least until it was finally abandoned in 1998. You can see the diving plinths at one end of the pool, and these are actually still in really good condition. You've got to be a bit careful here, you definitely don't want to fall into the bottom of a concrete swimming pool. There doesn't seem to be much more paint missing from the diving board, but I noticed plinth number 4 is looking a bit more weathered, with a couple of the tiles now broken. This long shot of the pool gives you a really good idea of the size of this place. Pripyat itself isn't actually very old. It was founded in the 1970s. The main reason was to house workers working at the local nuclear plant. So having grand amenities like this pool in a Soviet town at that time was not very common at all, but they wanted to look after their workers and that's why this was built. Again, it's the tiny things here with the detail. Look at plinth number 2. There's a tiny bit of tile missing at the top left, and yet they've recreated that also. Going down onto the floor of the pool itself is this cool mural that someone's painted. Now initially when I was looking around I couldn't find this. It just turns out I wasn't looking hard enough. It's still here, but 10 years of being open to the elements have taken their toll. A lot of the more vibrant colours have now worn away. The slope leading to the deep end of the pool is definitely missing a few more tiles now, and the graffiti at the bottom is definitely a lighter shade of blue. One thing I did notice is that the iconic timer is no longer on the wall. There was a lot of metal theft in Pripyat after the disaster, but I hope no one's stolen it. It'd be a real shame if it's gone. It's a real centrepiece of the building. But maybe someone wanted the ultimate souvenir. We've spent a while in the pool now, so we're going to move on to our next location, which is going to be one of the local schools. And we're going to see another detail of this game that absolutely blew me away. In the school you find this painting of these two girls. You can see it's looking a little weather beaten now, a little bit creased. However, I actually found this actual picture in the Palace of Culture. Not in the school as the game shows it, but a bit of artistic licensing there. But when I found this picture for the first time on my visit, I really liked it. I thought it was incredible. It was a real shame that I couldn't take it home. But I did the next best thing, which was to take a real clear picture of it. And when I got back home to the UK, I really wanted to get it printed out and framed. And I did just that. Here's the picture over my computer desk where it's been for several years now. Seeing this actual picture in the game really made me go, wow, that is cool. I'm really glad I managed to get a picture when I did. A lot of things in the area, as with the graffiti, are starting to fade away. I found the school pretty much one of the most interesting areas. It's a real snapshot in time. Lots of stuff has been stolen and vandalised over the years. A lot of the windows have been broken. As far as I understand it, this is so radiation doesn't settle. But just check all around you, there's loads of things to look at. There's loads of the kids' school books on the floor, and I found what even might be a photograph of one of the classes at this school. They look to have the same neckties as the girls in the painting. If you notice in this picture, the teacher's holding a bag with an advert for Marlboro cigarettes on the side. I have heard stories that in the early days of the Soviet Union, a lot of these luxury brands weren't available, but lots of people would pay big money for a bag with an American brand on it. Showed they had money. Or at least pretend they did. On the lower floor of the school there is a gymnasium. I had to be quite careful here, a lot of the floor has started to rot away. There were several holes in the floor and one wrong move and you put your foot through. As you can see, it's really dark here when I took this footage, so they've done a really good job in capturing what detail they can here. We're going to head over to the iconic Pripyat Ferris wheel next. On our way we find this mural on the wall, again perfectly modelled, even down to the broken tiles. On the way we'll take a quick measure of the radiation in the area. We're measuring in microsieverts here, and about 10 microsieverts is about equivalent to a dental x-ray. But you can see as we place it on the ground closer to the moss which soaks up the radiation, it pretty much doubles. I think the highest we measured was around 40, which is in the lower floors of one of the hospitals. That's about equivalent to 2 full body CT scans. Here's the famous Ferris wheel. It's often said that no one ever got to ride this when the disaster took hold, but I have seen pictures online that appear to show people on it. Maybe it was a test ride, but I guess we'll never know at this point. I also read that this exact model of Ferris wheel was still in production way up to 2017. Looking at this, I don't think it would ever pass Western safety standards. The only thing that seems to be missing here perhaps is the little ticket office next to the wheel. I have seen later pictures than mine and it does still seem to be standing, so maybe it's an omission. You'll also find the bumper cars in this area, but any roof on this structure is long since gone. There's also a ride called the Paratrooper Ride, but I don't think it was ever finished being set up. Several parts of it are still reported to be missing. We're going to leave the fairground now and head over to the Palace of Culture. When I visited this in the game, I immediately recognised one of the locations. It matched a picture I took, but I cannot remember where I took it. But now, thanks to the game, I now can. I believe this is one of the dancing or meeting halls. You can see the piano on the right hand side has pretty much fallen apart now. As we enter the front of the Palace of Culture, we go up to the first floor. Again, this is all captured perfectly. Notice here that the handrail's missing from the staircase uprights. Probably another victim of those metal thieves. It's much the same upstairs, more missing handrails. In the gymnasium area, you can see that trees are actually starting to grow through the floor on the right hand side. The floor's definitely a bit spongy here, take things slowly. The developers have added some extra bits to this location, but it's still accurate, right down to the rope still swinging in from the ceiling at the bottom end. Not too far away is the Pripyat port area. I remember the water level being quite a lot higher when I was there. There's still lots of locations I'm finding in this game, but for the last location in this video we're going to go to the hotel. This is the Hotel Policia. We're going to climb up and look out the balcony at the top floor. On my visit, when I finally made it the 6 or 7 floors to the top, I found the clearest sign yet that nature is taking over. This tree had taken root between the paving slabs. Some of the buildings in Pripyat are now so weathered that they've actually started to collapse. So I'm kinda glad I went when I did. There were pretty much no restrictions on where you could go, just don't go into the woods. Like the moss, it soaks up the radiation. The tree doesn't seem to be in the game in this top area, but you gotta remember, a lot of this was taken 10 years after my visit, so who knows, maybe the tree's there, maybe it's not. But I hope you enjoyed this little walk through here. I've got to say it's the most accurate representation of Pripyat that I've seen so far. You can find some virtual reality experiences for the town of Pripyat, but several of those just seem to be 360-degree photos, so you can look around but you can't walk. So in my opinion, with the accuracy you've seen so far, I think this is the one to go for. You can pick it up on Xbox, PC and PlayStation. The room next to this one is probably where I took my favourite photo of the entire trip. I got this printed out and framed as well. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Support the creators and buy the game. And if you do ever get the chance to visit Pripyat, I'd say go for it. It's truly an experience you'll never forget. And who knows, maybe you'll turn up something that previous visitors haven't. I'll leave you with a quick colorization of the class photo, along with the monument to the firefighters who died during the disaster.